Today on the Life Surfing Podcast, the inner automatism which can keep you locked in the past.
Because when you are not caught in the automatism, you are opening up to the reality. And in opening up to the reality, you start discovering factors which are there in you as a potential, but you are not able to leave it because your automatism is overtaking the energy without your being often aware of it. What is often forgotten is the fact that how easily our inner automatism takes over our whole energy, and how much a determination and care you have to bring so that you don't fall into that trap. But in order to make it possible like that, you have to understand that there is a trap, that there is an inner automatism working in you which drags you into the past, which drags you into the habitual way of reacting, which is part of pulling you into the past and its settlements. And once you see that that is not the way you can get clear or free, that it is making it more difficult for you to really be with your intelligence, be with your creative potential. In fact, it is working against it. Then you can also understand the urgency for it. But the fact what you need to also remember together with it is that life energy is manifesting each moment fresh. And in its pure form it is joy. It is not positive or negative in the usual level. It is simply like electricity. Depending on what appliance you connect to, it will strengthen it. And therefore, once you understand it, you can also see your part, your responsibility. Because you have the possibility to decide whether you let the energy go automatically and unconsciously into the settlements of the past, which invariably also drags you into negative states, into more entanglements and destructive processes. Seeing that, when you really take the initiative to stay present, stay wakeful so that this automatism is not overtaking your life energy. It is not fighting against the automatism, it is not trying to control your life energy, it is more a quality of remembrance and understanding which enables you to prevent the automatism to overtake the life energy. And once you are seeing it, it is disrupted. It's a disentanglement of the automatic process. And you need to be ongoingly with it. Because the moment you are looking away and getting distracted, the automatism comes again from the back door and you are getting dragged into it. So you can see it is not just you decide once and then it is done forever. No, it's a decision you make and continue to be with it from moment to moment, from situation to situation. It's a persistent orientation. That is a challenge which we have as a human being, but that is also the blessing which we have as a human being, because we can go beyond the automatism, we can go beyond the conditioned ways of reacting. And through that we become capable to see and understand what life really is. Because when you are not caught in the automatism, you are opening up to the reality. And in opening up to the reality, you start discovering factors which are there in you as a potential, but you are not able to leave it because your automatism is overtaking the energy without your being often aware of it. That is why it is in so many ways in all mystical teachings indicated. Learn to be with the moment. Allow the silence. Be present. Be here now. These are all different ways of indicating that you have a great potential. But this potential is so subtle that unless you recognize it and go consequently to realize it, it will not happen. What happens easily, automatically, is that you get pulled into the habitual way of reacting, and often you feel helpless, you feel like a victim, and then you start fighting against it, and then you see that it doesn't work, because through fighting you don't come home. Through fighting you don't come to clarity. Through fighting you are giving energy to the automatism. And this is also one small and subtle aspect which you need to understand. Not only when you are following certain patterns blindly that you are giving energy to it, also when you are fighting against it, you are giving energy to it. And this is one subtle factor, because in both the cases your attention is on these patterns. And wherever your attention goes, your life energy is moving there. When you are present and not letting the automatism overtake you in that way through your presence, your attention is with the moment. Your attention is wakefully there. And that makes a big difference. And this is the greatest quality in human life, that we are able as a human being to rise above the entanglements in the past, rise above our conditionings, and discover the potential of deeper understanding, understanding oneself and each other, understanding the way of nature. Discover the potential of love which is hidden in us. And above all, realize the real freedom, which is only possible when you are ready to reclaim it. Otherwise, we are remaining caught in the conditionings, and often we don't realize that we are caught, that it is possible for us to go beyond it, it's possible to get clear and free. This is what in this story from the Sufi background, which is known to many of you, which is often also referred to, is indicating about this person who was sitting in one place and begging his whole life. And after he dies, the people from the city come to clear that place and see that just below the place where he was sitting, there was something very heavy and big. And as they tried to dig it out, they discovered it is a big treasure box full of most precious diamonds, jewels, gold, ornaments. Sitting on this treasure without being aware of it, he lived as a beggar and died as a beggar. And this is what the Sufi background has been trying to bring the attention, that we, without taking the initiative to question, to confront, to understand, can miss the whole chance what life is offering to us. You can see the indication in another way in the Tibetan tradition, where they are reminding everybody, because in the Tibetan tradition there is one mantra which most Tibetans use very often, and that is Om Mani Padme Hum, which when you translate it, it means the treasure which you are seeking is in the lotus of your heart. But the seeking is our part, our individual responsibility. We have to take the initiative, take the right steps, approach it with the right understanding, so that we can discover this treasure. But it is very easy to overlook. It is very easy to not recognize it. Because we get used to our conditioned way of living and is almost like in an addiction. That is why sometimes I have been telling to some of you that behind all the addictions, the biggest addiction is the addiction to the ego. You get into the conditioning, into the belief who you are, what you are, without inquiring and questioning. And you are all the time trying to settle there, trying to hold to it, trying to defend it. That prevents you from realizing who you are, what you are. So recognize the urgency, the need, and also the great opportunity which life has made available to you as a human being. To realize the potential of love, to realize the potential of freedom, to realize the treasure of joy. But also be alert about it, that it can all be overseen. You may not recognize the possibility, you may not take it sufficiently to your heart to pursue it, because the habitual patterns of reactions and settled ways of judging and looking seem so important to you. That is why your inquiry is not just inquiring for something somewhere. It's first of all coming in touch with what is preventing you from seeing the reality. When you realize that you are projecting through your past, you are not seeing the reality. When you recognize that in order to see the reality the way it is, you need to unlearn the habit of blindly identifying with the judgments, with the knowledge which is very relative. So it is a basic inner work process. But this is what is making human life so unique. Because human being can become free from all the possibilities of entanglement and suffering. And through that indirectly awaken to the joy, to the love, to the freedom. So be alert about the way you go about in your life and see how easily one can ignore the chance, how easily one can just follow the addiction into the settlements, into the comfortable concepts and beliefs which you want to settle, but the fact is everything is going on, moving and changing. And when you try to settle with that, what cannot be there for you to hold to and settle with, then there is pain, there is suffering. That is what Buddha was trying to make to everybody so telegraphically visible. He said, there is the basis of life where everything is going on, moving and changing. Everything is transitory. And the second thing is, when you try to hold to that what is transitory, you are creating the basis for suffering. And the third thing which he said is also very delicate, very difficult for most people to even allow as a consideration, because he says, what you imagine to be your I is not your real I. There is no so-called I in that sense. You are not separate from the whole. So he used the word anatta, which means there is no so-called self. These are very uncomfortable things perhaps in the beginning, when you are coming in touch with it. But when you really consider the trueness of it, when you consider if it is really so, because he is not trying to say something to create fear or to manipulate or to manage something. These are simply deep insights into the nature of our reality. And then he speaks about the nirvana, the chance that the human being can go beyond all suffering, all pain. And that is very, very important to realize it. He doesn't promise anything so that we can make a new desire and new goal out of it. He is very, very careful. But the fact is that when you are not trapped in the suffering, your innermost nature is of joy. That is what in the Upanishadic teachings it is indicated as that your innermost nature is Sat Chit Anand. Truth, consciousness, and joy, blissfulness. The potential is there, the treasure is there, but you have to continue without hesitation, without running away, without avoiding that what looks like difficult and uncomfortable. And one thing I would like to add before I conclude is that in your endeavor to seek the truth, to become clear, to become free, you will realize more and more how much life is supporting you in that. And this is very, very important that you start recognizing and feeling it on your own. In what all ways life is making it possible and supporting you in your search for yourself, for your truth, for your divinity. If any question is there in anyone still, you can take the time. Anyone who is participating from elsewhere, if anything is there, we can take this time for that.
A question for Bhashkar. Write your questions in the Spotify comments.
So if no questions are there or nothing else is there which we need to consider, we sit the next half hour with the remembrance to be wakeful and present to all what is. And the orientation in this is very deliberate, that you don't identify with anything, you don't interfere with anything, you are not trying to hold to something or trying to get rid of anything. Not identify, not interfering. With wakeful presence, letting all what is there to become as deeply transparent to yourself. With closed eyes we sit for the next half hour.
The Life Surfing Podcast will be back next week. In the meantime, make sure that you're following us right here on Spotify.